It's a vibes. Where you say family? Your host Selah Shalom in the building. Yes, we back at it. Actually, I'm on the phone with a great friend of mine, the faithless brother, Kosmon Cal. You dig? I'm about to have to drop some knowledge. Just give me 1 minute. We gonna get it straight. You know we got the great debate coming up. Selah Shalom versus Ben Yakanan. Dawood, Yahoo, topic of debate, who is God, and Lord, according to the Tanakh, and Oahspe, hosted by Malachi Maccabee, his YouTube channel, Honor and Humility, STL, Friday, May 20th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Hits of vibes. Blessings, family. It's your host, Selah Shalom. We chomped in. I'm on the phone with the great brother. He go by the name of Kosmon Cal, Detroit's finest. Warrior faithist. And actually we were sitting up here building for about 35 minutes and I was like, you know what, King? You dropped some great information. Let me go ahead and get you online, catch it early, and you can continue to spew this knowledge. You know what I mean? Let the people hear how faith is built, how we rationalize, and you know what I mean? We come up with our conclusions based on certain evidence, primary sources, secondary resources, creation. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you on speaker, King, and let you do your thing. You can introduce yourself. You can go ahead and
peace to the family, peace to the faithful, peace to the tribes, man.
Let me know. Give me a click in the chat to let me know if you can hear my man clearly. So you know what I mean. When we proceed, y'all got a good audio of him. He's speaking through the phone. You know what I mean. But as long as we get a clear reading, we good to go. So go ahead, Kosmon Cal, introduce yourself real quick to the people. Let them know who you are, and then we can continue where we was building at. You know what I mean?
Yo, peace, ICO. Shout out to the family. You dig what I'm talking about? Love, one love, and light to all the faiths out there. It's your boy Kosmon Cal repping. You dig what I'm talking about? Detroit. I'm Jaja boy.
All right, they saying it's clear, King. So we in the clear. So now,
bet.
We were speaking on the continent of Pan. Let's go back right there for a minute. Let's go back to the continent of Pan, and we're gonna come back up. So we was touching on how the continent of Pan was was located in the Pacific Ocean. And we was talking about like how the high mountains, basically the floor of the continent of Pan is the top of the continent. So go ahead and just touch on the essence of Noah, the flood. Is Noah a person? The Ark of Noah? Just go ahead and elaborate. And if there's any questions, I'll interject and just raise them.
Okay, well, first off, peace and love and light out there to everybody. But yeah, the brother was breaking down, we was breaking down some real serious things. First of all, is Noah a man? No. Noah is a time. Noah is the 17th ark cycle after the creation of man, or 51,000 years after the creation of man. So, with that understanding, it's easy to answer, well, who's Lamech? Well, he would be the father of Noah. And if Noah is a time, guess what his father is? A time. But then guess what his grandfather is? A time. And we know how long those times are, even revealed in your Bibles. You dig what I'm talking about?
That's right.
Even revealed in your Bibles.
So again, hold on, let me interject right quick. You said that Noah is the ark cycle, right? I know you were on the phone, you can't see, but I just lifted up the ark cycle from the Ark of One, the first ark cycle, to the 25th ark cycle. So I just want you to reinstate that the Noah is the ark cycle while I got the chart up there, so you can just let them know that again.
Correct. The story of Noah, first of all, you got to understand it is allegorical for actual true events that took place in history. But it was so long ago, and it was told in story form, so and allegorically, so people could learn from the events. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
For instance, the very first arc cycle in the creation of man is called Wane, W-A-N. That's the very first one. But the 17th arc cycle, or roughly 51,000 years after the creation of man, is called Noah, N-O-E, Noah. You see what I'm saying? So Noah is a time, not a man at all. You see what I'm saying? So and that time began. See, roughly 51,000 years after the creation of man, but exactly 153 BC.
Okay.
23,153 years. You dig what I'm talking about?
Right.
BC, according to the Gregorian calendar, is the time or the beginning of the ark or the life or the time of Noah, the 17th ark cycle. So you have to start before then. What's Noah's? If Noah, and I'm telling you, if Noah is a time, Noah's daddy must be a time. So what is Lamech? You must understand that every arc cycle is breaking down into 8 semi-dans. 8 semi-dans.
All right, hold that. Let me show the picture of the arc cycle right quick so they can see what you're talking about when you say it's broken down into 8 semi-dans. Let me throw that up real quick. Hold that thought.
Okay.
Hold that thought. We're going to show the arc cycles, family, so y'all can get a visual of what he's talking about. Let me find it. Just give me a minute. I got a lot of stuff in here. Let me see. Hold up. Matter of fact, let me see that. Heavenly Kingdom, bomb. Let me see if it's right here. 3,000 year succession. Boom. All right, go ahead, King. I got it on the chart. So this is the arc cycle right here. He's about to elaborate. Go ahead, King. So hold on. Before you start, King, the illustration that I got is the arc cycle of 3,000 years, and it's broken down into sub-cycles of 400 years, and I got, like sub-gods within those 400 years. So you can go ahead and elaborate from there.
Okay, right, exactly. Now, on average, every arc cycle is roughly 3,000 years long. We are speaking on the 17th arc cycle. We are currently in the 25th arc cycle. But if you look at the arc cycle, it is broken down into roughly 8 points of light. Every one of those highlights are called semi-dans. If you broke down a 3,000 year arc into 8 cycles, on average they would be about 375 years apiece. But they are at odd times. They're at different times because an arc can be 2,400 years or be as long as 3,600 years, but on average they're 3,000. So we know for a fact that the 16th arc cycle, the arc cycle under the true God Neph, was 3,400 years old. So going back from the date of 23,153 BC, Lamech, who lived, remember I'm telling you, is a time. Lamech, or the time of Lamech, was a 707-year span of time because that's how long they said he lived. So you go back 707 years before the time of Noah. You are into the 16th arc cycle, and in the last 707 years before the 17th arc cycle and the time of Noah.
Right.
You go back to a semi-dan before that. It was a 969-year span called Methuselah, who would be the grandfather of Noah. Y'all following the time? 969 years plus 707 years. That's 76 years. Am I about right? How about if you add another 365-year span of time right before that, called Enoch? How much time have we used? 365, 707 plus 969. Those are the lifespans told of Enoch, Methuselah, and Lamech. Right? We should be about roughly 1,800 years right through the middle of that time. Now, but if you go back and look at the times of the life of Jared, of the life of Methuselah, if you all the way back to Adam, that'll equal 3,400 years, which gives you the exact length of the Ark of Neph. So your oldest Bible tale doesn't even predate the time of the sons of Seth or the 16th ark cycle or 48,000 years BC or after the creation of man or what we would roughly call 27,000 BC. Your oldest biblical tale of Noah, besides creation, doesn't even predate 27,000 BC.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And every one of those times you can add the 8 fathers, because there are 8 semidans and there are 8 fathers, till backing up to the date of time of Adam. But Adam would just be the beginning of that 3,400 year or the 16th ark cycle after the creation of man.
Facts.
That 3,400 year span of Neph.
And let me interject, for those who don't know, the ark cycle that he's referring to is between the 16th and the 17th ark cycle. And what he's doing is telling you that the sons of Adam is time periods, time spans, semi-dans, like you said, sub-cycles.
Correct.
So while you thinking that Enoch or Enos or Seth lived those lengths, basically what he's saying is that these are sub-cycles coded with names as individuals.
Yeah.
Just to give you some
Correct.
clarity. But go ahead, touch on, King. So basically that time period, so with just say the sons of Noah, as far as the sons of Noah, the survivors of the ark cycle, of the flood, I mean.
Okay, well, look, first of all, Noah represents a couple different things. He is not just thing. Firstly, Noah is an ark cycle.
That's right.
It is a 3,600 years span of time, from 23,053 to 19,653 BC, something like that. It's 3,600 years, the 23rd ark cycle after the creation of man, or during the Great Deluge. Now you must understand also. Not only does Noah represent the 17th ark cycle after the creation of man, he also represents all the people, all righteous people left on earth at that time. All 12,420 people that got on them boats, right? And once you this how slick Jehovah is. He made 138 boats, 12,420 people. If you stick 34 ships in each group, right, that leaves 2 extra ships, right? But on every ship is exactly 99 people. Huh? So he didn't leave nothing to chance. There are 99 people on every one of those 138 ships. Exactly. He left nothing to chance. Okay, so after the life or the time of Noah begins, 23,153 BC, the first 200 years, the very first 200 years, which is called a halftime, right? The first, or actually, let me break it down to you like this. The first 400 years, broken down into 2 halftime, which is called a time, a 400-year span is called a time. That time split into 2 is called Shem and Yafet. So what I'm saying is from 23,153 BC to roughly 22. Let me see. 200 years after that Okay, 200 years after 23,153 BC, right? Which leaves us, I forget, it's 2247 or something like
But
that.
now you ain't got to be, accurately accurate
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
numbers. We get the idea though.
Right. 200 years, that first 200 years into the time or the life of Noah is called Shem. The next 200 years is called Yafet. The next 200 years is called Ham. Those are your 600 years in between the beginning or the life of Noah and the actual flood, which came 22,553 BC exactly. Ask your God to do that. Didn't it say it came on the second month on the seventh day? Something like that?
Yeah, second moon
month,
cycle, 17th night of the moon, which would have been a full moon. So when the sun rose, it was all hell and goddamn mayhem. Now let's go into that though. Let's go into the day of the flood, like how we was talking how the ships surrounded the continent, the power required to crush the continent, and the description you gave with the basketball underwater and trying to keep it compressed underwater. How much force that takes? Run up on that, King.
Okay, first of all, everybody must understand the ancient continent of Pan was massive. It was big enough. First of all, it ran along all the southeastern coast of China, all the way to the north, touched to Siberia, went all the way over the Pacific, the top of the Pacific, ran down the western coast of Africa, and ran all the way down the spine of Southern America, and all the way back, all the way across. So it was an odd kind of big on one end and went down to a pointed slant. You dig what I'm talking about? Along the southern coast of western coast of South America. Because everywhere that we see a mountain or a volcano along the Pacific Ring of Fire is a place where the continent was literally carved and broken up off the continental floor, lifted, and first of all, it was carved like a pizza. How many ships was it, bro? 250,000?
250,000, yo. 250,000 spaceships.
And then, hold on. Each spaceship is multiplying the vortexian energy 10,000 fold.
Correct.
And then, as a whole, each one is then there was a great tube. Aphek describes it as a tube that was sealed off the continent of Pan, what today we call the Ring of Fire.
Right.
It literally carved the ground. Many of the places where it was that there's water in the Pacific now, it was all land. For instance, the island of Honolulu or Hawaii is a mountain. Is a volcano, still standing alive above the water, existed from the continent of Pan. You got to remember, the island touches the floor. It's a volcano. The only reason we call it an island is because the part above it sticks above the water. It is as a matter of fact, the island that, or the mountain, the volcano that the Hawaiian Isles sits on is the second largest island or mountain in the world. And if it was above the ground, it would be bigger than St. Helens. It would be it's still hitting thousands of feet above sea level right now. So imagine the continent was above the ground. So how high was this thing in the fucking air? Miles and miles, that you can smash a continent, turn a literal continent. First of all, y'all got to wrap y'all mind around this. Pan was big enough to fit 5 Africas in it.
Yeah, I just put up a picture of the Pacific Ocean to show how big the continent of Pan would have been. So you could elaborate. And matter of fact, we gonna go back and when you were describing like the pressure and all that, I'm gonna read the verse from that and then I'm gonna let you elaborate. But finish your thought right there, because I'm finding that verse so you can elaborate. I'm gonna read the verse and you elaborate.
He had them surround the whole continent. He used a multiplier force. Like, for instance, imagine having a shop vac, right? If you take the tip off the shop vac, it'll still work. But if you put that little hose tip on it and you focus the air down, it sucks up even harder.
Right. So all right, let me interject real quick, because what you're speaking on is the verse I found in the Oahspe. So I'm gonna read the verse. I'm gonna read verse 1 and 2, and then I'm gonna let you elaborate from there.
Okay.
So we in the book of Oahspe, son of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. It states, "Now Oahspe, son of Jehovah, said, when the ethereal hosts were arranged in due orders, I called out to Jehovah, saying, in thy strength and wisdom, O Father, join thou the heavens above and the earth below." Verse 2. "And the end of the ethereal column that extended to Shinvat on the border of the vortex of the earth was made fast by the pressure of the wide heavens." Now you can elaborate from there and we'll go on to the other verse, because that coincided with what you were saying about the pressure.
Okay. Hold on real quick. I had to jump out. Now go ahead, read it one more time, man, just for emphasis' sake, man.
I know you good, kid. We got time, so check it. All right, verse 1. "And now Oahspe, son of Jehovah, said, when the ethereal hosts were arranged in due order, I called out to thee, O Jehovah, saying, in thy strength and wisdom, O Father, join thou the heavens above and the earth below." Verse 2. "And the end of the ethereal column that extended to Shinvat on the border of the earth, on the border of the vortex of the earth, was made fast by the pressure of the wide heavens."
Yeah. Now, basically, what he's saying is,
you know what? Let me give you verse 3, because that's going to give you more content to go off of right quick.
Right. Okay.
So verse 3 and 4. "And I said, in thy strength and wisdom, O Jehovah, join the heavens above and the earth below." Verse 4. "And the end of the ethereal column that extended down to the earth was made fast around the borders of the continent of Pan by the sea and the high mountains on the earth." Now that was coinciding with what you were saying about the pressure around the continent.
Right. He made a vacuum.
Right.
He made a vacuum. He sealed it before he even activated the pressure. What he did was took the spin, a natural move of the vortex around the planet, and pressurized it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
He used the natural, what you would call natural weight of the bioatmosphere. You see what I'm saying? He used that pressure that they call space, that vacuum, and he multiplied it thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and literally spent waves of energy into a continent 10 times America's size, 20 times America's size. You could fit 15 Americas in the Pacific.
Right.
It's massive. You see what I'm saying? So he had 250,000 ships, multiplying that energy 10 times, 10,000 times, and then use the vacuum, that seal that multiply it another 100,000 times. He literally carved a continent up like a piece of pizza and pushed it between the waves. Now I want people to understand how hard that is.
Now what I just did, King, let me interject real quick. What I just did, I just put up a picture of the vortex, and the vortex compressing down where the continent would be, to show how, as an illustration, how the pressure from the high heavens coming down. So when we read back right quick, when it states in verse 2, and the end of the ethereal column that extended to Shinvat on the border of the vortex of the earth. So what y'all see on the screen is that the border, the top portion, will be the high heavens, where the border of the vortex is. And it says, was made fast by the pressure of the wide heavens. And then it stayed on verse 4, and the ethereal column that extended down to the earth was made fast around the borders of the continent of Pan. So like the vortex coming down would be the suction that the brother Calvin was just talking about. The suction that'll be compressing the continent on the bottom and sinking it below by the vortexian pressure from the high heavens. But
correct. You did correct. You did what I'm talking about. And
go ahead, King.
And people must understand that the border of Shinvat is beyond the moon.
Right. Facts.
It's past the moon, so it's actually drawing from space, not our outer atmosphere, because our atmosphere extends past our moon. That's right. What they don't. There's much air past our moon air at the edge of our atmosphere as it is down at the bottom. It's just more rarefied because the power is so great up there. This is why space tears you apart. The Etherian wave, it does exact ether in the heavens, or what they call the waters above, or the ether in heaven does exactly what ether does on earth. It sublimates things to its chemical basis.
Right.
For instance, if you got coca and you want your coca better, what do? You put it in ether, and it takes the garbage and floats it at a certain level. It takes the good stuff and sinks it to the bottom, and all the rest of the thing is floating in the ether by its atomic weight.
Right.
This is what space does. So this is why when you go out to space, it sucks your water out you. You did what I'm talking about instantly. It puts the hydrogen over here, the oxygen over there, the nitrogen here, the phosphorus there. You see what I'm saying? It literally treads you. Ether in space, or space, does exactly in space what ether does on the planet. It is both in a liquid gaseous state, high on Earth. It is in a liquid state because of the actual centrifugal force of what we misunderstand as gravity.
Now, speaking on that, I'm going to read verse 6, and I want you to elaborate from here, because now we're talking about actually the continent being busting up. You know what I mean? So on the screen, we have an illustration of the Pacific Ocean, and it's an ocean, but keep in mind, like we say, this used to be a continent right there. So we're going to read the verse now where the continent is actually sunken. So in verse 6, it states, and the vortex of the earth closed in. So let me go back to the picture of the vortex. So this is the vortex. So it says, and the vortex of the earth closed in from the extreme, and lo, the earth was broken. A mighty continent was cut loose from its fastening. And the fires of the earth came forth in flames and clouds, with loud roaring. And the land rocked to and fro like a ship at sea.
Come on.
Verse 8. And again the vortex of the earth closed in about on all sides, and by the pressure, as you see in this picture, the pressure coming from the high heavens through a vortex looking like a tornado, the pressure coming down, it says what? The land sank down beneath the waters to rise no more.
And as you see, it was a smashing effect. It and then folded down on it. Boom.
Right.
Boom. The first one, I'm sure, just severed the rock literally the continental, the basis of the continent from the planet. The second one crashed it, smashed it into pieces. Fire blazing up through the air. It's water. It's a tornado. It's an earthquake so bad you couldn't hear. You couldn't hear. The sound would just be whoa. Everything is being rendered to it, broken down to its basis compound. I mean, mountains are melting.
So they basically would have dissolved.
Basically, is what happened. It literally cracked the planet like cutting a pizza in slices.
Right.
The first one just cleaved the motherfucking continent from the actual Earth itself. The second one carved it up. The third one pushed it below the water. This is why he said Jehovah 3 times, and the envelope folded on itself every time he said, in Jehovah's name, I call for the power. Boom! Could you imagine?
Can you imagine that, King?
The utter terror. The utter terror. I mean, to know that it is instant death.
Right.
You got a couple seconds. And then they don't understand oscillating. Our planet moves not only in 3 different ways, it moves 4 different ways. There is a great misunderstanding today that is put out through mainstream science called polar shift. What actually happens is north and south are fixed. They never move. But the planet underneath it oscillates and rolls every 24,000 years, all by itself. It don't need nobody. This is just one that was off. It was on plan, but it was off plan. It wasn't at the normal 24,000 year mark, or it would have came during the time of Neph. But remember, during the time of Neph, there was no physical or spiritual harvest on the planet at that time. So when they say, I want to get y'all to understand this, especially faithists out there who put the Ions on this super pedestal, like they are this all over thou, oh so holy art thou people. Now they were holy people than we are today. I would give them that.
But even in the Oahspe it states that it was the presence of the guardian angels why they were inspired the way they were.
So, exactly. That's why they knew the consequences, so they wasn't gonna go to war. You would have to really press them. You see what I'm saying? But what you gotta understand is, and the book of Oahspe explains this. It says all flesh was corrupt. So that included the Ions too. Huh? This is what they won't want to tell you. This is what they don't want to tell you, because how the drug came back about was simple breeding between the Ions. It takes an Asu and an Ion to create a drug. Well, if the Ions are only people on the earth living, where does the drug come from again after the Great Flood, after everything is destroyed? All the people are destroyed. There are only 12,420 people on the whole planet. Where does the drug in America come from? Where does the drug in Africa come from? It comes right out the Ion. They didn't need nobody to produce a drug. And this is why they asked the Lord, well then, what's going to happen to our babies that's turned into these drugs? What's going to happen to our babies? What the Lord tell him? He said, this is a thing, this is not a thing of spirit.
He said, this is a matter of seed.
This is a matter of seed. But think about this. Before the 3,600 years period of Noah is up, everybody is destroyed. The drug is created again, and the Ayin is back up on the Ahuin is back up on the planet before the end of the Ark of Noah. Think about that. Before the end of the Ark of Noah, the Ahuin is back on the planet. How do you get Ahuin?
Let me interject right quick. I found that verse with the seed. I'm going to read that and you can elaborate.
Yeah.
So this is the Lord's first book, chapter 1. Verse, let me see, where am I start from? All right, I'll start from verse 75. So, nevertheless, in all parts of the earth there lived the ground people who were black and brown and buried in the ground, and they had long arms and curved backs, and were naked and not ashamed, for which reason they were called drunks. The Lord spoke unto the chosen, the Ayin, saying, Behold, the earth, I give it to you, to be yours forever. Mingle ye not with the drunks, for they are without understanding, and not heirs to everlasting life. Now many inquired of the Lord, saying, If these, having no understanding, be not heirs to everlasting life, how shall it be with our children who die in infancy?
Our children.
The Lord said, This is a matter of seed, and not of learning. Whosoever is born of my chosen shall inherit my everlasting kingdoms, which is the ethereal realm. Elaborate, King.
First of all, you must understand at that time, or even before that time during the Ark of Noah, the Ayin was going to the Ahuin and going to the drunk and purposely having children. There is this reaching negative narrative that the Ayin was just this flawless. They went to the Ayin. To the Ahuin. They went to the drunk and bore them children. This is why during the sinking of the great continent, or the sinking of time, the great deluge, that is not only was the Ahuin full of sores and had catarrh in the head and of the throat, it was also the Ayin. They went to the drunk. They went to the Ahuin, who go on during the time of Noah, which also coincides with the book of the lost books of King Og, which tells of the time right before the flood up to the flood. But it also then goes back and doubles down on another time where he's fighting against Moses. So you'd have to, now that we know the flood took place 22,000 BC, you dig what I'm talking about, and you understand the time of Moses was 1553 BC, you can see there's 2,100 years in between the two. No man could have lived that long, so what are they talking about? How could Og be at both times? No man could have lived 20,000 years. That even only a dummy would believe that. But just like the king was the king in 30,000 BC, he is the king in 3,000 AD. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same person. It just has to be the same type of man on the same mission. Og, just like Nimrod, is a spiritual race. Okay, for instance, when a man dies and he's born into the spirit and he goes to the higher heaven, he is born as a newborn spirit. Positively, he's called an Ethereal, a new spirit, right? But what if you below the grave and you're born into spirit? What is that new spirit called? That new spirit is called a Nimrod, a know-nothing, a dunce. The next great spiritual right down, negative, below the grave, is called an Og, O-G. This is how Og could tell about a time before the flood in the 23rd arc cycle or the 17th arc cycle, and then tell you about a time during the time of Noah during the time of Moses, during the 24th ark cycle, 21,000 years later. Just like the king gave the edict in 800 AD, he is the same king who gave the same or a different edict in the same place. If he opposed the ancient edict, he is the king giving the same edict 1,000 years apart. We are talking about spirit, space, and time, and then they never get. They only tell us a 3-part story. They give us the Ham, the Shem, and the Yafet, but you only getting 3 parts of a 5-part story. Where are the other 2 brothers? Because see, what they don't know is Ham is not only a continent, it's a group of people and a group of ships. It's 3 things all at once, and it's a time. It's 4 things. It's a time. It's a group of people that go to repopulate a certain area in the earth. We know Ham is Africa, the Middle East. You get what I'm talking about? We know that. From the Zagros Mountains west. That is all Ham.
Hey.
But it's also them 34, what's 34 times 99? What about 3116 or something like that? There's roughly 3,000 people go on to populate an area. That make more sense than 2 people getting off a boat in Africa and creating all these goddamn people. If 3,200 of them get off a boat, then it make more sense.
Right.
That you don't have a genetic block.
And see, that's the crazy. The crazy thing is that, you know, in the Bible narrative, they got you believing that Shem, Ham, and Japheth and they wife repopulated the whole planet till today. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, then where are the people in America? This is why they always only trying to tell this 3-part story, because they hide in the indigenous man of America. Right. He is today called Negro. He is the Angui, and it is the exact same word, the ancient Algonquin word, Angui. The original Ongwee is the name of the people and is the word Negro. It is literally the word Negro. Angui is Negro.
Hey, and Angelica gave the answer for that multiplication is for that what you said is 3267.
3267. Now, if you notice, everything is still being able to be broke down by 33 and by 11, or hence by 3. I can break everything down in time by 33 through the timetables of prophecy. Y'all better get hip. That's what you better do. You better get hip. You better stop falling for them stories. You had them stories before there was a Bible. All them your stories. You don't got to turn down nothing. But you just got to learn the truth about it. It's like them trying to tell you a snake was talking in the garden. Come on. Come on, man. You got to use common sense and logic. And when common sense and logic don't fit no more, it's a lie. It's a lie. So how did 8 people get off a boat and create 8 million? They couldn't have. But if I told you 12,420 people got off in the 5 great continents, or off in the 4 great continents, and then another continent, which is now the remnant of Pan, called Japan, and you can always find the oldest people in the world in these areas, and they're always little people, and they're always mound builders.
And see, let me interject for a minute. See, the biblical narrative don't have an explanation for the indigenous people of America and the people of Japan. You know, their excuse that Moab in the Bible, Lot's offspring, is the Chinese.
No.
That shit is laughable, bro.
Not only that, it should be able to tell you that the Israelites and the Moabites are the same people. They got ITE, which generalizes the Persian people. If you got it on the end of your name, that means you come from Persian people. What they also don't know is there was a Lot the elder and a Lot the younger.
Right.
Moses, you not only dealing with Abram's brother Lot, you dealing with his nephew Lot. They don't tell you that. The Zoroastrian is the Moabite. The Amorite or the Ammonite, who they become the Moabites and the Ammonites, the ITE show that they are directly descended from the people who birthed the Israelites.